Hey, what's up guys, it's TJ here, and today we have another tutorial video. We're going to talk about drone footage and how to get your drone footage looking more epic, more cool, more like it deserves to be in a movie. Just getting better drone footage and making sure that we edit it correctly so we don't show our mistakes. So I'm not some type of fantastic, outstanding drone pilot. I am pretty good, I am pretty comfortable with it now, but what makes you a good drone pilot is knowing how to move your camera, how to move your drone in situations to make sure that you get some good quality footage and usable footage for your videos and films. So what we're gonna do is talk about a couple of techniques that I like to use. We're gonna hop into the editing and show you guys how I edit it, how I cut out certain parts that I don't really like. But first of all, let's talk about a few tips that you can use to get some more epic, more cool looking drone footage. Don't forget I have some links in the description box of everything that I use when I film. So I use a Phantom 4 and that is in the links in the description box. You can see my kit of everything that I use, my favorite gear. So go check that out in the description box below. So my first tip is to make sure whatever you do, just make sure it's steady. I don't care what kind of techniques you're using, make sure that it's nice and smooth in the same speed, in the same direction. Sometimes you may change directions, but make sure it's a smooth transition or a smooth change in direction. And just make sure it's as steady as possible. You have a gimbal, but you can get shaky footage and get jittery footage when you move the drone around too much. So be mindful of that. There's a fly here. I'm gonna kill it. This wouldn't be a drone video without some drone equipment, right? So I have a controller here. Basically what I mean by making sure it's steady is if you're throttling forward, make sure you throttle forward and hold it at the same speed throughout the duration of the time that you're trying to film. If you're going backwards, make sure you hold it at that position at the same speed the duration of the time that you're going back. And this helps to get you a nice smooth shot. Same thing if you're going up or if you're going down. Make sure that it's at the same speed. Hold that throttle and that control very steady at the position that you start at and finish throughout that shot like that. That's one way. The same thing with the camera. If you're moving the camera up or down, make sure you hold this at that position. So this is like almost like a trigger here. So what you want to do is make sure that you hold that trigger at a specific position so that the camera is moving and tilting at the same rate or speed throughout the entire shot. Tip number 2 is to combine some of these motions. So if you're flying forward and you're tilting your camera down, that's a great shot there. You want to make sure that it's steady and that it's a consistent motion all the way through. So if I'm flying forward, tilting the camera at the same time as I'm flying forward, tilting it down over an object or tilting it up to reveal an object is a great way to improve your film and your footage. Don't just fly forward, add another dynamic to that shot that kind of makes it like, oh, how did they do that? How did they do it so steady? So that is tip number 2 on how to get that a little bit better. That would just add another dynamic to your shot. And the third tip is to use the tools that you have. A lot of these drones come with different modes that will help you get some steady footage, and it's really steady. Don't be ashamed of using those modes. So if you want to revolve around the object, make sure you use the point of interest, and if you want to follow the object, make sure you use the active track mode, and just like use those things to your advantage because they really work and they really get some really cool shots. And also while you're doing that, you can add another dynamic to it by tilting the camera while you're revolving, and all you have to do is focus on tilting the camera. You don't have to focus on the speed, altitude, or anything like that. So make sure you use those modes. And the last tip I have for you is editing. So you're gonna shoot a ton of footage while you are filming. One thing you want to make sure you do is when you take off, just start recording. I just record throughout my entire flight. So as soon as I take off, I start recording. I never hit the record button until I land. Because sometimes you think you're getting a good shot and you're not getting a good shot. So I just record the entire time. That is a great tip. But the problem with recording the entire time, you have a ton of footage. So what I do is I edit, and editing out all the bad stuff is what makes your drone shots look really good. So let's go check that out and see what we can do. All right, so I'm making a new event called drones, and I already have some drone footage that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna import some of that. I'm gonna import some footage that's raw, and let's make a new project called drone editing. Okay, sure. All right, now let's import some footage. Let's go find some import. Let's see what I have here. Let's see what we got. Okay. Oh, I have a perfect thing. Okay, let's go to Miami. Let's go to Miami. We're going to Miami, y'all. Welcome to Miami. In my Miami. What does it say? All right. So here's an example of some footage that I got from Miami, and I got it pretty much all at the same time. This is a 7-minute clip from Miami. So that's pretty much the entire flight. If you look at this film, actually what happened, I was in the wrong mode and I had to turn it off. So I got up to a specific height, and then I was like, hey, let's just start recording here. So I recorded the entire time I was in the sky. And while I was in the sky, I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to get. I had a couple of shots that I wanted to get. So I went and got those shots. But let's look at what the raw footage looks like. I mean, when you are positioning the drone to get where you want to be at, sometimes you have to go and fly around a little bit to get there. So you have like these jerky shots. You see those jerky shots? That's a shot that you don't want. You want what's in between those shots, where you are in position and you're panning out, or you're getting a nice steady motion. So that is a nice steady motion. So what I would do is, in this point right here, where I actually turn and jerk the camera, I would actually cut that portion out, and I would only use the part where I am steady. So I'm gonna drop that down here, and we're gonna look at this. Let's see, okay, I like that. So let's cut that there, and then I believe it starts to jerk here. Let's see. It jerks there, so let's cut that part out up until it is steady. Let's see. Okay, not steady yet, almost steady. I think I'm adjusting the exposure there. Let's see. Okay, now I start my motion, and I want to wait a little bit until my motion is consistent, and then I want to cut to that point where the motion is consistent, and then I can have a nice smooth shot panning back. So that is how I would edit to music. I mean, that's how I would edit my drone footage. And so let's see. Okay, this is another shot. This is another shot on the beach. And I wanted to get a nice steady shot flying across the sand and into the ocean, and over the ocean. And I don't want to go in the ocean. And there's like a couple standing out here. So what I had to get into position. I had to drop down into position. I actually went down pretty quickly because I was trying to get the shot. So really jerky here, and then we come down and we get into position. This is actually a good shot right there. When we're coming down at a nice smooth shot, that's a good shot there. But I wanted to get into position where I had the couple. And then once I had the couple in there, so that is drone footage that I will completely cut out. You don't want anybody to know your setup. You don't want people to know that you're like getting in position and all that stuff. You want a nice smooth motion. So I cut it to the point where it has a nice smooth motion, and then I go out into the ocean. I believe I kept going at a constant and consistent speed for a good little while. And once that part is over, let's see, almost there, almost over. We're almost there. I think we're almost there. You got a nice cruise ship in the background. You got the sun coming up. You got nice blue sky, nice blue water. Okay, so that's where we stop at. So we want to cut that part out of where our constant motion kind of stops and slows down, we want to make sure we cut that out. We want to stop it where we're still moving forward at the same speed. So right there we see a little jerk, and we want to cut it right before that. And that's it. That's how you edit your drone footage. Here's another shot. One more shot. We'll do one more. I love this footage from Miami. Okay, so this is an example of that panning and tilting that I was talking about at the same time. So what we're doing is we're actually increasing our altitude, we're flying forward, and we're tilting the camera at the same time. So it takes a little bit of practice to do this, but we're gonna make sure you tilt that camera and fly forward and fly at the same altitude. And you want to increase your altitude. You want to do that all with steady fingers. So we want to make sure it's a constant motion. So here, I believe we start, what do we do? So, okay, you see that jerky motion of the camera? We don't want that. But we want to start where the camera is consistent. So I moved it again and stopped. And then here's where I start to tilt it. So when I was operating the camera, I was trying to get my altitude and my speed correct. So I was trying to get my two thumbs at the right positions, and then I set them in the same position, so I'm moving at the same velocity and increasing my height at the same rate. And then once I get those two set, then I move my camera. So at this point is where I start to move my camera at a consistent speed. So we're panning down over this building, we're increasing our altitude, and we're flying towards the building at the same time. And those three dynamics are what makes a good drone shot. And lastly, let's cut out the part where we're jerking around. So that's how I edit my drone footage. Alright, so I hope that helped you guys get a better idea of how I edit my drone footage, and also how to get some epic drone shots, and how to, utilize those controls so you have some footage later on that you can use, some usable footage that looks epic and looks cool and that you are proud of. How to make sure you cut out and edit out all the extra stuff that you don't want in your drone shots. Just knowing what to look for. You may fly for a long time, but only use the good stuff. The top 10% is what you want to use. And my last tip for you guys is to make sure that you don't overdo the drones. I mean, sometimes you'll fly for hours, and sometimes you won't be flying for hours. Sometimes you fly for a long time and you only use a small clip, but just save those clips for later and you can use it for something else. It's good stock footage too. So just keep that in mind. Don't overdo the drone shots. It's not a good look sometimes. Just don't do drone shot after drone shot. I would say the max is probably 3 drone shots. So stick to that. That's all I have for you today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and do all that stuff, like the stuff that normal people do when they kind of enjoy a video. If you enjoyed the video, that's entirely up to you. It's an idea. Maybe you like it too. I don't know. I'm just here.